What's going on, people? So today is going to be sort of a follow-up to the video that I uploaded recently, or I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, called How I Would Fix TESL. That video covered mostly what I view as the problems in the game. I think today I want to talk a little bit about the solutions. I'm going to try my best not to just say rotation over and over and over again. However, many of the issues that I currently have with the game could be fixed by a rotation. So that's just a fair warning that it might be very rotation heavy, but we're going to try our best to talk about other things as well. So, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the core set. I said previously that I think the core set is just overall too powerful. Not saying that all the strongest cards in the game are from the core set, but just the core set has such a strong presence that it makes all future decks feel the same, which is great for newer players. As you're building your collection, you know that your core set collection kind of can hold true for you for a while, and that'll allow you to build many good decks. The problem being, it has made the game feel essentially the same almost the entire time this game has been out. If not for buffs and nerfs, the meta has largely been defined by almost entirely core set cards for a very, very long time. And I think the best example of this is blue as of late. Like, you slap in your Crown Quartermaster, possibly a Firebolt, Shrieking Harpy, Ward Crafter, possibly a Cunning Ally, depending on how blue heavy you are, Daggerfall Mage, Lightning Bolt is an easy include, and you see, like, I'm not even, like, halfway through, and I've already built half of deck. And this is just from core set. Like, I'm sure if I go into, like, Skyrim, or even Houses of Morrowind, some of our older expansions, it'll be even worse. But at that point, like, that's just blue, and I've built probably about half of a deck, if not around 20 cards or so. If you're slower, you slap in a Schemer, especially now that Cast into Time has been nerfed. In general, this is just easy, no thought. I'm building a blue deck, I'm slapping these cards in. Or if you're playing an aggressive deck, like, you just take a look at the core set here. You know, Bruma Profiteer for the stats and heal over time. Fifth Legion Trainer gives you continuous buffs. You slap in Divine Fervor. You slap in Dawnbreaker, possibly Cloud Rest, Hive Defender to protect your aggressive threats. East March Crusader to continue drawing cards, and I have almost an entire aggressive deck in a minute, and there's already 20-something cards there. There's a reason why, like, regular aggro Crusader, you know, like with Relentless Raider or Clan Captain, Afflicted Elite, those cards I mentioned from Yellow, there's a reason why that deck has been almost identical since the inception of this game. It's just that good. And yes, the core set should be good, but I think our core set is too good. So we're going to leave rotation aside for the moment. I think in addition to rotation, which again, it should be a thing, in my opinion, I think we need to look at a curation of the core set. What I mean by that would be retire cards that see, like, infinite play or all play all the time. Possibly look at a Harpy or a Wardcrafter. I don't know which specific cards I would target, but look at the whole core set, decide which cards you're going to rotate out, and then you go from, let's say in hypothetical rotation land, we're going to rotate out Heroes of Skyrim. It's not going to be in the next expansion. But maybe you decide, you know what? There's some things from Skyrim we'd like to keep. Although we're rotating Skyrim out, let's put all of the lookouts into the core set, because we think that they're a nice part of the game. Or let's take all of the shouts and put them into the core set, because we think that's a nice part of the game. Take a look at all of the expansions that you may rotate out, and find cards that you think can help kind of lay the groundwork for the next phase of the game. Because once rotation happens, you're kind of setting the game up for its future. Kind of think of these first couple years as a test drive as we figure out what cards or how this game is going to exist. But go through your core set, take out all of the cards that see too much play or that are too good, and then go through all of these sets you're going to rotate out and pick and choose some cards from them to become part of the core set, and then create a new core set out of that. That way, players who already have collections still have a core set that is functional and can help them build decks. But also, you wind up with less just instant staples. And I think that could go a long way in setting the game up for a quote-unquote Phase 2. And I wouldn't say to re-core setify something like Golden Initiate. Like, this card can rotate out for all I care. I think this card is too good as a 3/3 Prophecy Drain. In a world where Moonlight Werebat saw a nerf, printing this card is just odd. And I know times have changed, but it's still just odd. Like, this is not a card that I would want to see put into the core set. Shining Saint? Sure. This card is interesting. It rewards you playing on the board. I think this is a solid card. So that's how I would address that first thing. We're going to loop a couple other points into one here. So, too much single target removal. I think there's a couple other ones related to single target removal or too much. Too much draw is another one that I've mentioned. Those two cards, two things. This is a kind of two-pronged attack and how I would fix that. The first one, obviously, is rotation. Our card set is just... We have too many cards. We have way too many cards in the game right now. You pick, draw a card, and you've got, like green is, like, the draw color. You have this that draws eventually, this that draws right away, possibly draws right away, guaranteed draw eventually, draws right away, possible draw. Like, look at all of this draw. And it's all, like, fairly statted on curve for the most part, and you're not giving up anything for all this draw. You're just cycling forever, and for almost free, because we have just so many cards at this point. Some of it is the cards have to rotate out. But it's not just rotation. Card draw, and I guess this leads into my other point of cards like Conscription, Crabscription, Daedrascription, whatever. We need a concerted effort to push design in a different direction. And I don't want to sound like I'm just purely criticizing the designers, because they have a very hard job, and I think overall they've done a very good job. But even though it gets very hard, and I admit it gets very hard to continue to make cards when the card library is so big, if you don't make them very good, they have no impact. It's better to just rotate now or to create, specialized mechanics rather than go ahead and print something like Faded Wraith. This card, it looks like nothing, but this card makes a mockery of everything that this game used to be, and kind of continued to be for quite a while. Outside of Conscription, which used to be its own little bubble of stupid value and shouldn't exist, Faded Wraith came in and was like, screw it, we don't care about anything anymore. We're just going to make wild, dumb plays all over the place. This card is so easy to buff out of control that you can just dump your hand, play irresponsibly, and then fill it back up with 10 cards with a 5 cost, 10 whatever. Cards like this, they gotta stop. We can't keep making cards like this. This card, where are you? Like, Conscription just has to go. We can't keep making cards like this. Because when you build one, then all future cards need to be equally as stupid, if not more, in order to make any kind of dent at all. And it winds up just this kind of slippery slope snowball of printing worse and worse cards, and the game just kind of really suffers. Like, more cards like Skeletal Mage, please. I know the body's not great, but this is an interesting effect. It highlights a mechanic from an expansion. It's not too powerful. It is targeted removal only on a creature, but you have to have something to set it up first. This is everything that I'm talking about in what I like in card design. I know Skeletal Mage isn't going to really turn heads or sell packs, but okay stats. It is removal at a creature. However, you need to set it up in your own deck, have something to do, be able to target it. It's just good design, I believe this card is. And I know there's a whole bunch of other great examples in the game, but I think Skeletal Mage is a fantastic example of the type of card that rewards you for setting it up. You can't just slap it in every deck, play it blindly, and remove things. I love Skeletal Mage, and I love cards like it, and I think we should push more towards that direction, in my opinion. So this leads me into my next point. the dreaded Prophecy. So this is a tough one for me, because in my ideal world, Prophecy would just get completely redesigned. I understand that that's not a realistic expectation for the game. The game's been out for such a long time. Prophecy is not getting redesigned. It is staying how it is. I just want to repeat that. It is staying how it is, because I'm going to talk about how I personally would redesign it. But again, I'm saying this is not going to happen. So my personal opinion on how Prophecy should have worked would be either make them way worse across the board. I'm talking like as bad as Dark Harvester to play from hand across the board, so that every Prophecy feels like garbage when you have to pay the magicka for it. Something like Sparking Spider as well. It should be this bad to reward you getting free cards. That's how I think they should have been designed across the board. You know, things like Guildsworn Apprentice are probably still too good for a Prophecy, but still kind of fair-ish. You know, Fighters Guild Recruit feels real bad, but it's still kind of fair-ish. But even these cards are pushing it, because this essentially becomes like kill something for free that you didn't deserve to kill. So I would have made Prophecies just across the board worse. But how I would have actually designed Prophecy from the start, and I think I've mentioned this before, is I don't remember the name, but there is a mechanic in Shadowverse that allows you to play a creature card as a spell for a reduced cost and a reduced effect. And I think that's how Prophecy should have worked from the beginning. So if we take a look at, I don't know, let's just grab an example card here. I don't know. I think all of these are kind of tough to redesign, but something like Lightning Bolt can be deal 4 damage all the time if you play it from hand. If you play 4 magicka, you can deal 4 to your opponent's face, you can deal 4 to a creature, you can deal whatever you want. However, Lightning Bolt should probably be something like deal 2 or 3 damage to a creature when played from Prophecy. Can't go face, you don't get these super high tempo removals. Lightning Bolt should be way worse. Or something like, I don't know, Javelin instead of just flat out destroy a creature. Again, redesigning that Javelin is tough because we have so much hard removal in the game that redesigning Javelin just makes it sound like garbage because we have too many other good cards. But Javelin should be something like pay 5 to destroy a creature, or as a Prophecy, I don't know, shackle 2 creatures in a lane, or lock a opposing creature's strength to 0. Something along those lines. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas here. The overall point is Prophecy should have been a split effect that is way worse when you play it from a Prophecy. As of right now, besides a couple of Prophecies that are extremely bad, in general, a lot of these are cards that you would just play in your deck. Golden Initiate, I would just play that. Zivkin Channeler, feels a little bit bad, but it's a 2/2 that heals you for 4 at a minimum. I'd probably play that in some decks. Like, a lot of these cards, you would just play. Fighters Guild Recruit, I would just play without Prophecy. Darren Cutpurse, probably still would play it without Prophecy. I just think it's nuts that we have a whole bunch of cards that are good enough to be played at their magicka cost, and then additionally you can play them for free. So I would have just designed Prophecy completely differently. But we're going to talk about solutions that can actually be done. Because again, I will repeat, Prophecy is not getting redone. They are not redoing the game. It is staying how it is. So, once we rotate all of our way too good Prophecies out, I would take a look at some of the remaining Prophecies. Something like potentially Cloud Rest. Maybe rotate that out since it's from the core set. And just moving forward, I would be way more careful about designing Prophecies. Like Burning Touch, pretty fair. I think it's kind of more towards the too bad side to play it in your deck, but Prophecy should be that kind of hard decision. Do I want to include a worse card to maybe play it for free? I think that's the route that they need to go moving forward. Once we get rid of, our Shrieking Harpies, and I don't think they'll rotate out a Lightning Bolt, potentially a Lightning Bolt. Once you get rid of all of these cards, you take a look at your remaining core set Prophecies, and you maybe rotate them out and make a different Prophecy card to replace it. I think that would point us in the direction of, A, aggro decks that use prophecies as their resource. If all of the cards are kind of underwhelming to play, they can't just, like, prophecy aggro battle mage will never come back. And B, it will remove control deck's ability to sit there and purposely do nothing because they know they're going to hit cards for free. I can't tell you the amount of tribunal controls that I've played against that have intentionally played nothing because they know their first rune is going to be a javelin or lightning bolt or golden initiate, or take your pick of what they need to survive. You should not willingly sit there and do nothing and be rewarded. You should lose for playing nothing. That's how card games work. I know control decks decide as a strategy they want to go late, but you should not be rewarded for doing nothing to stay alive. Just like as an aggressive deck, you should not be rewarded for hitting yourself in the face to try and go faster. You should not get free cards for that. It's just, that's not even counting on the card draw portion of runes, because I think overall that's relatively fine. But prophecies need to be very carefully designed moving forward. Again, I think rotation is the biggest thing we need. I think the game as a whole just needs a fresh start. This game needs to kind of hit the reset button on itself. Really take some time to look inward and decide, like, what do you want this game to be? Because this game has kind of just gone off the rails over the last couple years. I know that cards like Conscription were created for big, splashy, flashy plays, as well as a way for control decks to reliably end the game earlier, for the game to be designed for a more mobile-oriented audience. But there's got to be a better way to do it. There's just got to be a better way to do it. You can't break your game to try and make it more fun to a casual audience. I consider myself a fairly casual player, although I'm probably more quote-unquote hardcore than a lot of people. I consider myself fairly casual, and I don't enjoy the route that they've gone with a lot of these things. Invade. Just look at the whole thing. I told you guys as soon as I reviewed Invade the first time that this... Before I even saw all the cards, I had seen, I think, 3 or 4 Invade cards at the time. And I said, they're either not going to do enough for it, and it's going to be nothing and pointless, or they're going to do way too much, and this is going to break the game. And it broke the game. They nerfed it. It's still breaking the game. I guarantee you they're going to nerf it again. But this was just bad design across the board. You were asking for trouble. You included cost reduction and random keywords into a snowbally mechanic that you printed like 50 cards for that any deck can run a ton of. This was just asking for trouble. And again, I sympathize with the designers that they have printed a few expansions of things like Expertise or Mobilize or whatever that have been released and they were just dead on arrival. So I'm sure they didn't want to do that again. They did a lot better with Consume and with Wax and Wane, and I'm guessing they wanted to do another one that was fun, that was thematic, and this was an easy trap to fall into, in my opinion. So now for the really good news. Almost all of this is very easy to attain. Rotation can be done at any moment. They just have to pull the trigger. Toning down the prophecies can be done alongside rotation. Cleaning up the core set can be done alongside rotation. All of that could be done in one fell swoop. You know, the design problem, again, I think that will be greatly lessened once we have a rotation and they don't have to like try and continuously outdo their last mess. But there is going to be a bit of a design shift that we're needing. And also, I want to draw one parallel. A lot of this game gets compared to Hearthstone very often. And over the last year, Hearthstone went from what was, in my opinion, a complete joke of a game, no balance, just everything, almost where we're getting to be honest, in TESL, where just the power level of everything was dumb, crazy stupid combos, random OTKs out of nowhere. And over the last year, I will give Hearthstone credit. Their design has gotten a lot better. They have been very aggressive with their balance changes, which is something I think that this game could learn from. Hearthstone will just instantaneously nerf things a week or 2 weeks or whatever. However long, it doesn't matter. They've been very aggressive with making sure that the balance of their game has been better over the last year. They even went as far as rotating out an entire mechanic, the odd and even mechanic. They rotated out an entire mechanic early just because they felt it was that like toxic for their game. They rotated it out early. And I commend them for that. The game is still not perfect, and there's still a lot that I don't like about Hearthstone. But I want to give credit where credit is due, and I hope that that kind of renaissance that Hearthstone has kind of started going through is on the horizon for Legends. Because again, I love this game. This game used to be, I would have called this game the best card game on the market at one point. I don't think we're at that point right now, if I'm going to be completely honest. But we are kind of at a crossroads here. And it's not up to me, it's not up to you, it's not up to anyone. I have the utmost faith that with Bethesda's backing, Sparky Pants is completely capable of kind of pulling us back from this ledge and setting us up for an amazing future in this game and quote-unquote fixing everything and putting us on the right path. But you have to make that decision, and it's a tough decision. You're going to anger some players with rotation, no matter how you implement a rotation. There are multiple ways to do a rotation. No matter how you do it, you're going to anger some players. If you rotate out some of the core set cards, you're going to upset some players. You just have to be willing to take that risk for the health of the game. Because if we just kind of stay on this path that we're heading down, we don't rotate out anything, we keep adding a whole expansion onto this every couple months, I don't know how much longer I can do this or how much longer the game can do this. We're kind of on a very important crossroads, and I guess I don't think we'll find out by next expansion, because next expansion is already settled, but we'll see if we get a roadmap for next year. We'll see where the goals are from there, but I'm very confident that we can get this ship righted and get back to the amazing Legends that it used to be, even if it's not exactly the same. I know nostalgia is a bitch, and not everything about quote-unquote old TESL was perfect, and I know that we're never going back to old TESL. Things like Tricolor are here to stay. This is just what the game is now. But, again, I have faith that once we kind of learn from some of the mistakes that we made with this current library of cards, we can get ourselves pointed in the right direction moving forward, and I'm hopeful and excited to see where that future lies. But yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.